Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go.
Hey everybody, Tracy Stuckrath up here in the left-hand corner of the screen, and I am the host of the Eating at a Meeting podcast. And I'm so excited to be here with you today because this is the kickoff of Food Allergy Awareness Week. And it's Food Allergy Awareness Month as well, but we're just focusing on this week. And I'm really excited about this conversation today, talking about clear labels, safer sips, and advocating for transparency in alcohol. And you might not find that interesting, whereas allergens in alcohol, but there are allergens in alcohol. And so we're going to talk about that. And I'm excited to bring people from both sides of the pond here. We've got Georgina Stewart from the Nutrient Gap. She's the founder of the Nutrient Gap. And below her is Ewan Phillips, who is the co-founder of the company called And It Has. And he is passionate about improving the experiences of eating out for people with allergies and dietary preferences. Thank you. And then Erin below me is the executive director and founder of Allergy Strong. So, well, Erin's been on the show. Actually, you were my first guest, weren't you? I think I was. Like 250 episodes ago. Wow. Woohoo! So I'm so excited to have all of you here to talk about this. And I want to get into where alcohol is, but can each of you tell everybody what you do? And Georgina and Ewan are in the UK, and so they have a different perspective of it because their allergy laws have been around a little bit longer than ours. So, Georgina, why don't you start?
Okay, absolutely. So I'm Georgina from the Nutrient Gap, and I look after regulatory compliance for labels for prepackaged goods. And I'm really passionate about helping to improve standards and transparency when it comes to the food industry. There's a lot of help that's needed especially for challenger brands. So I'm there to help them, advise them. And yeah, our allergen laws are very different to the US. In fact, because we have the 14 allergens rather than, I think, is it 9 allergens you have?
Yes.
And you've only just brought out sesame, haven't you? So we're very different. The Nutrient Gap, short and sweet.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Hi, I'm Ewan from And It Has. We built And It Has in 2019 as a result of trying to understand why people were injured or fatally injured through eating out. And we admit, my colleagues and I just couldn't work out why this was happening. So we took a very different approach to really understand the process between kitchen and business and customer experience at the table. And we built And It Has as a direct result. That worked with lots of different chains and independents in the UK. And really, really excited to share our story today as well.
Okay, awesome. And Erin?
Hi, I'm the executive director of Allergy Strong, and we are a national nonprofit here in the United States that works to increase awareness and access to resources for all persons with a particular focus on the underserved communities that live with food allergies.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about where is alcohol in beverages? Where are allergens in alcohol? I mean, because you've got beer and spirits and wine. So who wants to address where we can find some hidden allergens in those different categories?
Yes. So basically you've got with beer, you've got grains that contain gluten. With wine, you've got filings that could be over sulfites or fish. And then you've got pre-made cocktails or basis drinks like Abacar, the good old Snowball, contains egg. And then you've got the cream drinks containing the milk as an allergen, such as whiskey liqueurs and cream liqueurs and things like that. So they're sort of like the basis of the alcohol allergens and the prominent ones.
Okay. And so that's actually in I mean, the beer it's in the process of being made, and you also mentioned the finishing process there, the fish skins, and sometimes it uses egg, right, Erin?
Yes, that's right. We see that sometimes in wine. Yeah.
Right. Yep. But then and I know somebody told me that they had somebody allergic because the glue on the barrels had wheat in them.
I've heard that too. Even the wood of the barrels sometimes have some sort of protein exposure, although that seems to be a very rare situation. But I've heard some examples of that as well.
Erin, let's jump to the U.S. real quick, and then we're going to talk U.K. So you've been on Capitol Hill recently testifying for transparency in alcohol. Can you talk a little bit about that? Who have you been talking to, and what has the input been?
Yeah. Okay. So let me set the stage sort of briefly, and I'll try to be very quick. The U.S. labeling laws, which are known by its acronym, FALCPA, which is not a very smooth acronym anyway, only apply to food products, and they do not apply to alcohol. Alcohol in the United States is governed by the Department of Treasury and not the FDA. So all of those laws that we use...
The Department of Treasury.
Correct. So under the Department of Treasury is the Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco Agency, the ATF, formerly the ATF, and now they refer to it as the TTB. And they were separated out probably hundreds of years ago for tax purposes. That feels illogical to us because we deal with food. Needless to say, we consume alcohol, and it seems like a category of food product. But for taxation purposes, it was under the Department of Treasury. So it followed completely different labeling laws. And to date, there have been no requirements for them to label for allergens. There's been some voluntary guidelines, but very few companies have taken advantage of this. So for the most part, if you're looking to purchase alcohol, you can't find the allergens. You can't easily find the allergens that are contained within each product without calling customer service or doing a lot of digging. So we've been advocating this for years for clearer, more transparent labeling. And we've done this both on Capitol Hill and with individual legislators, as well as most recently with the Department of Treasury itself. They held a hearing in January, and it was a public listening session. And we, alongside a whole host of alcohol manufacturers, spoke up. We, in support of those with food allergies and other dietary restrictions, and the manufacturers with mixed feelings about this, to talk about what the challenges are and what the realistic issues surrounding alcohol are, which for people with food allergies are significant, obviously, and compounded by by cofactors and things like that. And of course, the reception is also mixed. I mean, generally speaking, I think people understand and sympathize with the plight of those who have food allergies and other dietary restrictions. Mm-hmm. That's great. The issue is complicated by the manufacturing process and the cost it is to change labels, which is significant.
So Georgina and Ewan, over in the UK, and I'm glad that we have you over here to talk about this, because the EU 1169 and Natasha's law add that labeling on unpackaged foods, but I also it pertains to the bar as well. And I know there was an incident a couple of years ago about somebody getting sick from hidden egg being in a drink. But tell us about what you're dealing with, or how you label beverages in the UK.
So first of all, with the pre-packed beverages, so like bottles of wine, bottles of beer, pre-made cocktails, the legislation says that alcoholic beverages containing more than 1.2% by volume of alcohol are exempt from an ingredient list. So the way that they can actually then present their allergens is by saying contains and then the allergen. So that's how they do it on bottles of wine, pre-made cocktails, that type of thing. But we're finding now that regarding when you're going out for a drink at a bar, that on the bar there will be just a little sign saying, please ask your server if you're allergic to X, Y, and Z. And the server should then be able to determine by a big book or a big allergen book or an allergen matrix what's in the thing. And then it comes on to Ewan by designing his app to make it a lot more simplistic. Okay. So if you wanted to talk about that, Ewan.
Yeah, Ewan. And I read online that it's for small independent restaurants to be able to really do this.
Yeah, well, it enables all size businesses. So we work with like big chains, and we work essentially it's like a secret family ingredient or a secret family recipe that makes it more complicated. So we've done a lot of work on a test company in Norfolk. We live in Suffolk, based in Norfolk. It's a really smart cocktail bar that travels around in a horse box. And we've done a piece of work with them to really understand all of the cocktails they serve, all of the drinks they serve. And we spent time with drink manufacturers to get the details. But it is really complex. Like Erin was saying, you have to phone up the actual kind of producers to try and get the answers. And what we're doing, we've done that with the producers. We've got the answers, and we can then share that to the customer, and we go into such levels as covering parts per million risk of different allergens in a product. So customers get a really an understanding of that there's wheat in this, but what is the parts per million volume of wheat in this non-alcoholic beer? So we work in the UK with a beer company called Big Drop Brewery. They do non-alcoholic craft beer. They're in the States, and they're doing really well in the States as a kind of really good challenger non-alcoholic drink brand. But with them, it's just, we've got the parts per million, so we can share that story with the customer. So customers then have the informed information on the allergen, the level of allergen in that product as it's been tested. And that then comes to the customer. So when you're queuing up at the secret garden party, you get there, you've done your filter, you've previewed our white label service before you've gone, or you've done it on the side of the horse box. You can then see drinks that are suitable to your needs. So it's a very quick, easy process. And we work a lot with front of house staff, drinks, and also with food. And like the staff well-being is really high because they have all of the data, really safe data that's come from the suppliers into our platform that's then shared with the customer. But staff look at it at the same time, and it just makes that journey really straightforward and quick for people. So it takes a lot of fatigue, worry, kind of anxiety away, but also it just gives you the data you need. And we're doing some work in the UK with another company who it was a CEO, did lots of research. She's allergic to almonds. So she spent time planning all the food menu. The food menu was perfect, but she wanted to eat everything with her staff. So she had a big Christmas party, wanted to eat everything, not worry about anything. And then she took her first sip at the bar of Prosecco and then ended up in hospital because looking at the drinks, and nobody knew that this Italian Prosecco used almond findings in the production process, didn't share it, didn't think it as relevant somewhere in a different part of Europe. And this company CEO was in hospital at her part, while her colleagues were having the party, and which was an awful experience to have. But it just shows that things aren't clear with drinks. It is hard to get the right data, and you just have to really think about anything we ingest into our bodies.
Right.
Does have an effect.
Yeah. So Erin, just having done testified, or is that the right word? And listening to the manufacturers, and you and also talking to the manufacturers, I'm like, it depends on how it's finished off, the fining process of it. I mean, and besides the labeling aspect, is it really hard for them to let you know what was used in that whole process? Or is it that secret ingredient that they don't want to let anybody know that it's in there?
So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. My experience was that, having listened to, a number of 30, 40 different testimonies of manufacturers, was many of them were on board for disclosing allergen information, particularly through a QR code, which that would keep them from having to try to find placement on the bottle or placement on package to put this information. So that was a good first step, I thought. I figured we need to get transparency however we can achieve it. Let's do that. But where they started to kind of push back had to do with a lot of the fining agents and some of these secret ingredients. So it was, there aren't too many secret ingredients, because usually those secret ingredients are the ingredients that they are promoting, like a peanut butter beer or a particular almond liqueur or something like that. That it's something that they generally want people to know. Or what they don't want people to know is that almond liqueur is actually made with peach pits or other things that are not the flavor that you think it is, which they readily admitted in this testimony. And then the fining agents is where they really started to particularly push back, was because they believed that the fining agents don't contain either any or enough protein to cause an allergic reaction in the first place. So it definitely gets more complicated when we're talking about having to label, for example, like walnut barrels that alcohol might be stored in, or fish and egg as a fining agent, when in fact they believe there's no protein there to trigger a reaction. So there might still be some parsing of words and some standardization that will need to take place in order for this labeling to be successful for the industry as a whole.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and that's interesting because it is, I mean, and when I speak and I talk about defining agents of different spirits and things, I tell everybody to go to barnivore.com, which is probably what we need for the food allergen side, right? Because you can find out if it's vegan or not. And it's interesting if the barnivore.com really fine tunes it to say it's the finding agent versus it being in it, right?
Right.
But but it's amazing how many people don't realize that all of our spirits and our beers and our wines are put through that process.
Yeah, I think very few people do. And that's part of what I had mentioned in my personal testimony, which was I think that the average patient doesn't really understand that alcohol falls outside the FALCPA food allergen labeling laws. So they're looking at the ingredients lists wherever they may be and thinking, oh, it doesn't say gluten, therefore it's safe. And that may not be right to begin with. And secondarily, even if they know they need to call, when do most people purchase alcohol? At night, right? At least at the point of not in stores, but at bars. And so if you were to try to get information at that time, not only do bartenders not know or not have time to access the information quickly, the customer service hours of these companies are all closed at that time. And typically an online directory doesn't yield the right kind of information that you need. You need to dig a little deeper. Yeah. So it's very hard for those people that have dietary restrictions to get the information they need at the time that they need it. In fact, I think that labeling laws in the United States might increase sales for most alcohol manufacturers.
Yeah. So Georgina, the having the sign on the bar, which is probably on one corner of the bar and not in every single seat of the bar, right? To say, let us know if you have allergens. And it reminds me of a law in Massachusetts where it's put it on the bottom of the menu. But if you're at an event with 3,000 people and it's a poster of that sign, it says that the food's already been pre-made. Right? Yeah. You really can't make those changes. So in the work that you and Ewan do, and I'm going to make sure that I'm saying it right every single time, what are ways that you're streamlining that or making it easier for both them and the consumer?
I think really what we need to do is we do need to have more training when it comes to the staff. That's really important. But with Ewan's app, it takes away that type of training as well. Whereas somebody can say something, but it could be something else, and it can be construed into another allergen. Whereas at least with the app, it's because we've done an awful lot of research through all the data sheets and through all the suppliers. We know it is accurate, and I think that's the way forward is to have that type of thing because anybody can access that app at any time. The big issue is going to be is people who are not computer savvy, tech savvy, and things like that. And this is where Erin was saying about the QR code. It's a great idea. And there has been talk in the UK of having QR codes on wine bottles to probably display calorie information because that's not mandatory. But you've got to think, I mean, my mum's 81, has never touched a computer and hasn't even got a mobile phone. So how would she know to access that information? So it's that fine line, isn't it? Of knowing what to do, how to do it.
Yeah,
definitely. And the way we've built it is so that people can do it pre-visit. So you're going to a conference, for instance, in 2 weeks' time, all the data's there. You can pre-look, you do your filters. And with our platform, you can filter on every ingredient as well. So it's not just the allergens, it's every ingredient. So if you have a reaction to mushrooms or kiwi or banana, you can do the same filter. It takes things out so you can see suitable dishes. It also enables for non-tech savvy people. We've worked with some really kind of world-class hotels where they have it on the tablet. So very kind of bespoke VIP guests are used to perfect kind of service. The staff have a tablet with them, and in 2 seconds they can meet the customer's requirements and very kind of easily explain the suitable dishes for them that day. So we have a really good process that makes staff feel great. the customer feels really reassured because it's all of the information is there. And we add things like an image so you can see how it looks. If it's an unusual dish, we cover kind of a description, say what it is, and then we have all the nutritional data as well. So we include everything in the platform. So it's all fact-based, it's all data-based, but it gives customers what they need, staff what they need to share with customers. And then for the business, our platform, it automatically generates the allergen matrix document. So we have the traditional, the tick sheets or the tick sheets and may contain information in a tick box. It provides that part as well. So a very intuitive white label, but also traditional tick sheet folder version as well.
Right. Okay.
And it's not just about the allergen in the product either. It is about the cross-contamination when it comes to production of the ingredient. And we look at that side of things as well. Take a lot of time over the data sheets to make sure that any kind of cross-contamination that occurs on that particular ingredient gets followed through to the final product. And that's really important. As we talked earlier, Tracy, we talked about due diligence, and it is all down to the due diligence because that's what our legislation is about.
Yeah. Yeah. The duty of care and making sure that the processes are getting done in the right ways. And in this industry with lots of turnover and lots of changes across the board, that in itself is a hard thing. So, and actually that brings me to a question, Ewan, how are you ensuring the accuracy and reliability of the information in the app? Because there's some manufacturers that are going to change their ingredients, right? Or so how does that get updated, and how does the app, and what if a server is like, oh no, this is fine, even though, but then it's changed on the app?
Definitely. In our case, in Europe, we work with clients like Wingstop. So Wingstop is quite big in the States, I think. You have lots of Wingstop sites. We work with the UK franchise, and it's an amazing company to work with. They're really passionate in the UK about getting everything right. So we've built some really good protocols with all of the suppliers that deliver products to Wingstop. So that's kind of international suppliers and European suppliers and UK suppliers. Okay. We have protocols with all the suppliers to give us a lead time if they're planning to change a recipe, if they're changing allergen information or nutritional information in the product, they need to add more ingredients. They let us know, so we have time to plan that and put that into the platform. So it's always up to date. So we do that, and also we can, when the supply chain is quite big and you've got two products at the same time in different sites, because you have many versions, we're able to hold two products at the same time and then filter out one once it's gone from service. And we have a secondary system where we've built a phone solution. So staff will take photos for us of new products coming in. So we fact check every so often. We fact check to make sure everything is correct. But it's really about dialogue with the producers, through the supply chain, into the business. Mm-hmm. We have two points of contact to make sure that the data is correct. Other people that use our platform, independents, they manually do it themselves. And they look after their service, and very much our app is like, you still talk to the business. So we have a prompt when you use our platform. You always let the staff know if you have an allergy or an intolerance, because by not letting people know, it's very difficult. But if you let people know and you check, that's the best way to talk to each other. Right. And our platform just gets rid of all the information you don't need to see. You just see the stuff that is useful, the things that you can have, not the things that you could have had or not sure about. So that's why we made it really easy. It's fast, and it's great for like QSRs because it's quick. You got your data set within 2 seconds to meet your dietary needs for you or your family member. So we made it very swift.
Okay, awesome. So, and I can't say, do you all know how to say her name? Evelyn? She says, I feel like if there's a QR code, there should also be information on the label, which is, Erin.
I was going to say that would be my ideal scenario as well. So definitely, I agree with you completely. But I do understand the manufacturing challenges and the space issues on some of these bottles. And so despite the fact that I would much prefer it always be printed right there on the label or near where the product is being sold at the point of sale somewhere, I would take a QR code in lieu of nothing. And in the United States right now, we really just don't have any reliable system to go on. So the QR code was a step forward. They're also talking about adding nutritional information as well to this label. Oh, wow. So we're not talking about just an allergen label. We're also talking about maybe potentially a bigger label that they're considering. But I completely agree. I would much prefer the information to be right there on the product so that there's no confusion if it moves from the point of sale to another.
Right. Well, and if you think about a bottle of alcohol, and I'm thinking bottles of alcohol versus a can of beer, but you still have a lot of real estate on that bottle. I mean, your label only takes up like a quarter of the bottle.
It can be
versus.
Definitely. And in the UK, the legislation states that obviously the allergen information is a mandatory part of the legislation. So that takes precedence over any kind of branding or marketing. So in theory, the QR code should be the branding, the marketing and the messaging. And the mandatory information should be the allergens, the nutritional information and everything else.
Right.
But we find it's always the other way around, which is not compliant, that people tend to spend so much time on their label with their branding, they forget about the mandatory information, which is the important bit. So if a QR code could just do that, would be better.
Really good point. I agree.
Yeah. The stuff that's going to kill you is on the label, and the stuff that just shows why it tastes good can be on the QR code. Yes. That's a dream. So what are the biggest, I mean, we've kind of talked about the biggest challenges of making sure this information, I mean, the manufacturing, the label space, but have you seen, especially you and Georgina, have you seen really good results from the Wingstop doing this and having that information? Has it helped project or increase revenue? Has it done, because Erin said this is an opportunity to increase revenue, which I wholeheartedly agree. But what have been the other benefits or that you've seen from them?
From our case in the UK, we have about 250 or so people every day using our platform at Wingstop sites. So that's a pretty big number of people who obviously have some dietary preference that means they need to look at the information. And the idea behind it's a link or it's a QR code or it's displayed on the counter when you get to the counter as well. So you've got lots of prompts to get the data quickly for you. So we found that people have the data so they can make their decision and have that fully informed choice. It gives you everything you need to know. So it's all there. So we found that really positively. The businesses that we work with, independents, they find that they get to meet lots of customers who have dietary preferences. So if they have dedicated gluten-free products, they see that there's a rise in gluten-free customers to their menu because customers know they've done the research. With Underhas, we used geotagging as well. So if you come to my town, Ipswich in England, you can arrive at the train station, you pull out your phone and search and see where you want to go with you and your family to meet your dietary needs.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so that's what we want. We want to bring it to the States in time because we think it's a really smart platform. We want to use it in lots of different countries so people can travel well and use the platform to get the information they need to eat and drink safely. But it's about people using it and making benefit, really.
Well, and I think that's huge because if they see people or more people are, hey, I'm looking for soy or looking at your restaurant and then searching for soy or searching for nuts or whatever, they can see this. They can actually see the real-time data of people searching for the different allergens. That, to me, that's huge differentiator.
Yeah. And it's all about like planning in advance. So then it's always that common denominator, that one with the allergy, the person with the allergy. If you went out with a group of people, you go to a restaurant that is there for that person who can accommodate them. So they can pre-plan their meals and their events by using the app. And we're also trying to work with some of the larger delivery companies as well, like Deliveroo and things like that, to be able to provide that information for across their sites as well. But time will tell when we get there.
Well, and it's adding that, and that's hard because you've got a third party delivering something and not necessarily knowing that they need to avoid cross contact or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Erin, I don't know anybody out there that's really doing anything like they're doing with app related on this. Do you?
Yeah, no, I actually not one that's solely focused on alcohol. And I don't see a leader from the alcohol industry in the space necessarily. There are a few people doing it right and trying a few things with an allergen menus, mostly the big manufacturers. There are a few small companies that really want to do the right thing. And we heard that in the testimony. And it was so encouraging to hear a few companies saying, I know it was going to cost me, but I had to pull a small batch because this wasn't labeled properly for tree nuts, or we don't want to risk having a reaction, that we take this seriously. So that was really encouraging to hear. And I think that's exciting news. I think when it comes to people with food allergies, they tend to be very brand loyal. as of right now, which is wonderful. And I think we're just generally a brand loyal. But I think with easy access to ingredient information on alcohol, their world would greatly expand. And I think they'd be surprised at often how many choices there are out there for them. And I don't think they'd feel restricted. I think they'd feel sort of liberated to go out and try some things they might not ordinarily do. So I think it's an exciting thing. There are people that want to do the right thing. I think a lot of times they just don't know what the right next step is. And so having a law that tells us how to do this and how to disclose this information, that could be the right next step. But in my mind, it is.
Yeah. No, and it's like the food code. It's a guideline, right? It's like, this is how you do it. And maybe it's the basis of the guideline, right? This is the minimum that you need to do. And then whoever wants to take that step up. And like, I don't drink anymore, but I remember when I first got diagnosed, I was drinking Grey Goose and Kettle One, but I could feel that in my sinuses. And then when I switched to Tito's, that whole sensation went away, right? And so I was very brand loyal to Tito's until I just stopped drinking altogether. But it's really because you don't know. And there was a couple of Idaho potato ones that were fine with me. But yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention is keep in mind is just that I think it's important. This labeling is important not just to expand the market and so that everyone can have more fun, but just also because alcohol is a cofactor for reactions. That in the United States, they estimate that up to 15% of these reactions are due to alcohol as a cofactor. So it's really right. Okay. Alcohol, they believe they're still trying to understand cofactors in general. Science is trying to understand cofactors in general, but they believe that increases intestinal absorption. So it makes you absorb the allergen faster if it's present. And then it can speed up your reactions and make them worse. So it's really critically important to get allergen information on these products, not just because it's great and more fun and it's more equitable to those who have dietary restrictions, but also because there's a medical situation here that actually could make allergic reactions worse. So it's really it's important for these companies to consider that and know that information.
Yeah, right. Now, Georgina and Ewan, labeling on the menu. And I mentioned it briefly when we first started, but there was a story a couple of years ago about a woman who ordered a drink at a bar, and this is in the UK, and it had egg in it, but that was not disclosed on the bar menu. So and those are the specialty cocktails that are not pre-made, but that are like standard on the bar menu, like I'll say an old fashioned and whatever. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that the restaurants are doing that or labeling those to make it clear? And is that part of the mandate?
We haven't really seen that at all. It's just because the basic information is that sign on the bar. And it is the consumer's responsibility, unfortunately, to go and ask if they've got an allergen, to go and ask the server. Mm-hmm. So that is like the basic information. Now, there is going to be a new law, hopefully soon, coming out called Owen's Law, where all the ingredients need to be on the menu. We're advancing that with And It Has because we do that.
Wow.
So every single, it's almost like you've got your dish and you've got the wine list, and it should literally be everything that's in it, like it would be in your packaging on pre-packed food.
Right.
Well, I don't know how far it will take it. I don't know how it will happen or how it will come to legislation, but that is the talk.
Right. Wow. That's a lot of text real estate on a menu. I'm like, if your menu is already 3 pages long, it's going to like triple it, double or triple it.
It's still open to slight interpretation. We're doing close work with Owen Carey's dad and sister. His sister now lives in the States, Emma, and we're talking a lot about And It Has and how that can be part of Owen's Law, because it's about having the information you need on a menu. Mm-hmm. And it can be written or it can just be easily found, which is exactly what we do. And It Has gives it to you instantly. So that can be a way to manage that, but give you a lot more behind the scenes as well. So everything is there to make that informed, quick choice. And so, we've really enjoyed kind of looking at how our platform could work, how it could meet the Owen's Law kind of agenda in the UK. And it's come back really as a really positive kind of one of the companies that can really do that really well. So we're excited for that part. But it is, all the information is there, but it's how it's given to the customer. And Georgina's right. We've got these kind of paper cards on the bar, but then if the bartender doesn't really know what's in the things, and they're grabbing the bottles, reading the bottle labels and thinking, oh, it's got this in it, then it's got this, and it's got this bottle here, then this bottle here. And that's how you're understanding it, a complex cocktail with a customer.
Right.
Customers taking their glasses off, trying to read the label themselves. It's not a really nice experience. Whereas in the platform, especially in like a cocktail bar, it's on your phone. It's as bright as you need it to be. You've got the data really easily, really quickly that you can see. And going back to Erin's point before, when you've got the information, you can be more adventurous. You can choose more things because you've suddenly realized, oh, wow, I never knew I could have this. And it opens up so many more drink and food opportunities for customers with allergies or dietary preferences. So it's a really positive outcome for the business because they can get a whole new audience with new products.
Right.
I think one of the areas which is quite confusing is about the sulfites. The legislation is less than 10 parts per million to be able to, then you have to declare sulfites. Now, if it's less than 10 parts per million in a product, legally you don't have to declare it. So when you're starting to make a cocktail and you've got this with less than 10 parts and that with less than, and then 3 or 4 other ingredients, that finished product is going to be more than 10 parts. So how do you develop that? How do you label that? And we need to be very aware of that because the legislation says the finished product. So I mean, and myself and Ewan have looked at this quite in depth, especially with some of the foods that we've been sort of profiling, to the point where we're actually saying it contains sulfites because of the risk involved when they've had, for example, Wingstop's, a burger and a sauce and chips. When that whole meal comes together, that could potentially, not saying if they do contain sulfites, but potentially that could be more than 10 parts per million. So how far do you take it? And this is what we were saying.
Right, exactly. Well, and then I was also thinking when Ewan was talking about making a cocktail, like, because a bartender will say, well, what kind of bourbon do you want? Or what kind of vodka do you want? And then on your app, I'm like, okay, so I want Tito's or I want this. Can that versus that? They usually make it with this style vodka or whatever, changing it up because bartenders are talented in that way, right? In changing that kind of alcohol that they use. And it depends on what the preference of that person is that's ordering it too. So that's a convoluted little matrix there.
It can be really complex. And what we do is we base it onto the individual products that they have available or the different SKUs they have in the bar. And then they'd have kind of like the generic standard, I don't know, whatever cocktail it is, that cocktail. And then if somebody wanted a bespoke one, that would then be down to their discussion with the bartender, and they would filter the bourbons and then they could see which ones they could have in the app. And then they could think, oh yeah, I could have this one or not. Because you only see what you can have, you don't see what you can't, because we made it really useful, because we found out in our research, people don't want to see what they could have had. They just want to see what they can
100%. Yeah.
And it's quicker. It's easier.
Right. Exactly. Although it is also annoying when your list is only three items long and everybody else's list is 75 items long. That's annoying. Yeah. So Erin, what's the next steps here in the States with this?
So right now there's an open period that they have already done for comments. So there have been thousands and thousands of comments submitted. And I know a number of patient advocacy organizations have submitted comments on this subject. So hopefully we've represented the public, the food allergic population in general. And I'm hoping other health groups, health advocacy groups that represent people with other food restrictions also have weighed in. I assume they have. And I think we wait and we see where they net out now. But in the meantime, I think there's conversations to be had. There's a lot of conversation to be had with individual manufacturers, with groups of associations of small batch manufacturers, et cetera, and just to move the conversation along so that we each understand each other's concerns and we find a productive middle ground that works for everybody in the United States. That we have a long way to go, I believe, unfortunately. And I'm hoping they've considered these changes for quite a long time. I mean, when FALCPA was originally put into place, the food labeling laws, which was in 2006 when they were enacted, there was some talk at that time of labeling alcohol and some interim guidelines of voluntarily how companies could do that. I don't think many took advantage of that at that time, but there's a structure in place. And I suspect that we'd follow that very same structure. And right now, I don't think they're talking even about adding sulfites, which as you guys talk about sulfites, I think, oh my God, that would be amazing. Let's add sulfite. As a migraine sufferer, I'm hearing you thinking this would be outstanding for me, just personally. But that's not even on our list because that's not in our list of top allergens. So we also have ways to go, I think, on the food side. If we could update our food list to include other items that are also found in alcohol, that could help us as well. So that's also be talking to the FDA, despite the fact that they don't monitor alcohol, they might be able to help us move the needle forward and think ahead to add a few lists. We have a way to go to catch up with the UK. We know that. And we're always pointing the government authorities in that direction. So we're always thankful for all of your forward thinking and good ideas because you guys are several steps ahead of us in terms of labeling allergens. You have, 14, did you say?
Yeah. 14.
Yeah. We just barely have 9. So we would like to see more on our list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when I speak, I note that the U.S. was the 38th country to add sesame to the list of top allergens.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. But thanks to Richie, she had the data to prove that needed to be added, right?
Exactly.
So, and I use the University of Nebraska's food allergy research. I forgot the other letter, but yeah. I use their regulatory chart to find all that information out. So, I mean, I want to go back to this a little bit, and I should have addressed this at the very beginning, but Georgina and Ewan, what prompted you to do this? Because Ewan, you mentioned like we saw people were getting harmed by eating allergens at restaurants. Are you a techie guy that develops apps, or are you a guy with a food allergy? What prompted you to do this?
Yeah, I'm not the techie. My co-founder Richard is a techie, and we just couldn't work out. We kept reading stories. I used to have a cafe in Ipswich, a community cafe, and we served lots of people, lots of different dietary requests and requirements, and then that was 2002. So things were very different then to how they are now. But it was me. I was the label guy, grabbing the bottle, grabbing the different products, checking them, showing them the basic ingredients we used to make a dish and talking it through, and then realizing that's not really possible in big chains and big businesses. They need a better process. So Rich and I just kind of built this platform, and we spent a lot of time understanding, listening, talking to businesses. We researched about 700 different businesses to understand what they do and why they do it. And we found, it was kind of like about 20% didn't have data that matched from the kitchen to the counter tick sheet. So we found a way to combine it together, have one source of data, because that's the only way it works. And then we've also built a platform that prints labels on demand to meet the PPDS need in the UK for Natasha's Law. So we have one source of data that does everything. Also, you can use your phone when you're queuing it up in your queue to get a sandwich from a sandwich bar. It all happens at the same time with the same data. The label's produced at the same time as put into your phone. So we've just tried to make the data safe and useful, and the journey better for the customer with allergies, and much better for the staff behind the counter. So staff know, because the training is limited in the UK. It's very hit and miss. Different people have different training, different support, different understanding. I think it's the same everywhere, isn't it? And I think people really need to understand what it means to have an allergy and what can happen. And if people did get an understanding and proper real life kind of awareness, that does change how you do things. But people are so far removed from the reality of what can happen. But for that reason, to make life better, and we just had a real interest. I love food. I did food marketing as my degree, and have had cafes in different businesses and training schools. And just, we all eat and we all drink and we all have a good time when we're going out. We shouldn't be worrying about what we're trying to have. And that's why we built it, so that in 2 seconds, you've got your answers.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And Georgina, what about you?
Well, myself and Ewan met on a dating site. No, we didn't. We met on a food sort of website. And whereas my background is nutrition, and I fell into compliance through just a normal sort of process of how my business developed. And Ewan was looking for help with the nutritional values of food to add value to the app. And we formed a partnership in doing that sort of work with him, and checking through the data sheets and looking at the compliance side of things for you and how the app would work. I don't have any allergens, but I'm vegan. We eat a vegan diet, our family do. And we are subject to the same problems, even though we won't die if we had egg or milk or anything like that. We're still that common denominator, and we need to go out. So for people who are following different kinds of diets and what they can and can't have, not just for allergies. So just think it's absolutely fantastic. And we went from there, didn't we? A great little partnership now, working with
definitely.
And it really is kind of a simple thing. In the UK, I don't know if you have the same issue in the States, where if you're vegan, we have a lot of confusion about being vegan and thinking vegan means that it's dairy and egg, milk and egg free. But that's not always the case. You have kind of random products that do get kind of tainted in the production process. And our platform is great at saying something's vegan, but then you have the may contain risk that's right there in front of you that explains that there's a risk of these things. So it makes that journey really easy for vegans to make that decision. And that's why we built it. So it's useful for vegans, vegetarians, and for people that have a wider mix of food they eat. So we try to make it straight.
Yeah. Erin, you tell everybody what allergy, I know you talked about what Allergy Strong does, but I'm really interested in also the population that you serve. Can you explain that? And I actually want to bring up something that Invisibly Allergic has on her Instagram page, which is a stat that I think is really important. Zoe does. Hang on. It says, fact, Black children in the U.S. are 7% more likely to have food allergies compared to white children. And she learned that from Food Equality Initiative. But talk about, and I know we're talking alcohol here, but talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So Allergy Strong, while we do put out information and fight for the rights and protect everyone with food allergies, we really try to spend a particular focus and attention on underserved communities, traditionally underserved communities, which in the United States means minority communities of color and immigrant communities are our biggest sort of lookout, in addition to low-income families, those who are experiencing food insecurity, which could be anyone from any background. And we also lump in adults. We just, I think across the United States anyway, we're not giving adults the kind of support I think that they really need and deserve. And so we just try to tap in. And then, of course, any at-risk communities, which are communities that might be suffering from a temporary situation of food insecurity, like during COVID or after a natural disaster. So we do tune into that as well. And so, yeah, that is true. Food allergies do not affect all of us equally as a group. They do. There are higher rates of food allergy among low-income patients. There are higher rates of food allergies among Black Americans as compared to white Americans, as well as Hispanics, which is often a surprise to these groups themselves, actually, because they often grew up with these allergies, but they might not have called it an allergy, or they may have just not sought an official diagnosis, so they put on the back burner. But these are obviously very common conditions. 1 in 10 Americans across the board have a food allergy. So 10% of every event, every stadium full of people, every bar, every restaurant, these are every food pantry and every school, these are 10% have a food allergy. So, and it's higher in communities of color and minority communities. So it's a significant population. And so we try to make sure they have the resources they need and are protected where they go.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's super important across the board, like you said, to make sure that we're meeting the needs of these. And somebody pointed out too, that 50% of allergic reactions happen to people who don't even know they were allergic, which brings up a whole nother thing that you and your app's not going to necessarily help them at the time of the thing, but having that information in the end, going back and saying, oh, well, what was in that dish, right? That could potentially help them discover that. Yeah. Because you don't know, right? What could potentially trigger something. And actually, I have the CEO of FAIR on here Thursday at noon to talk about hers. She's an adult and she has 2 new allergens that they're trying to determine what they are. So it's really challenging with that. But I commend all 3 of you for the work that you're doing to serve an underserved community in general. I think people with food allergies are an underserved community as is, and we need people not to fight about it. Yeah. So thank you so much. One question that I have, and based on the work that you do, and you're thinking through all of this, what does a safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experience mean to you? And sustainable doesn't need to be green. It could mean, hey, my company is surviving, but what does a safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experience from your perspective look like? Anybody?
Advocacy and traceability is got to be, that's the side of things for me, definitely.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, for me, the same. Share what you put in your food and drink, and then by doing that, your customers have a better relationship with you, your staff have a better relationship with you, and everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. I couldn't agree more with both of you, but I would add just access to information and to knowledgeable people, right? So in addition to just information, we also need some level of awareness and training that take place to help navigate these waters when necessary.
Yeah. And on that note, it brings up one final question that I think, because you said it earlier and you just said it too, is the staff. This information helps the staff feel better and more confident, right? And makes them want to stay working for you potentially versus leaving. Is that
absolutely?
Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, especially in the UK, we have quite a lot of staff retention problems. So we have lots of recruitment agencies that provide staff for companies that need 20 catering staff for an event. Those people have never known the business they've gone to work for until they've arrived on a Saturday night, a really busy event. They've got no idea what's going on. They're not going to know the menu. They can have no idea. So our platform for them makes them feel great, makes the customers feel great. It's the information shared to them by the chefs. So it's come from the right place, go to the right. What better way to feel good about the job that you're doing temporarily or full time? It's kind of, if we're giving people that confidence, and that confidence will share through the whole experience for the guests.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And again, I can't say her name right, but she's like, great to see you helping people who are underrepresented. So thank you. Like I said, I'm always happy. I agree with Tracy. I agree with what you're saying, is that we're all underrepresented in this space. Yeah. So needless to say, I love and then what Georgina and Ewan are doing. It makes me really excited. And I agree with what you were saying, Ewan, about empowering the servers. I think that's really a wonderful thing. I think they will feel more confident in helping people, and food allergy and other dietary restrictions will feel like less of a nuisance when they understand everything. And I think that's a really important part of it. So kudos to both you guys, because you're doing the hard work to help people to achieve that level of confidence, and you're helping diners all over the UK. Please come to America. Yeah, exactly.
We'd love to. And we haven't even talked about schools yet, about how we're working with schools. Nutritional table, so type 1 diabetic children, and how their families get the information. We do a lot of work around that side as well.
Wow.
For another day.
Amazing.
Well, you and Kit Medical. Yeah. Well,
I love it. I would love with Kit Medical. Are they going to join you on Thursday?
No, I need to get him back on, because they're just kicking butt. He was on a couple of years ago, so I need to get him back on, because they are just rocking and rolling over there and saving lives. So actually, I think I'm coming to the UK in September, so I need to connect with all of you for that. So thank you all again so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Everybody, this is Food Allergy Awareness Week. Today we were talking about alcohol, so that we can be safer when we're drinking alcohol. Tomorrow, I actually have Ryan Gambala, who is an attorney representing the restaurant side, the hotel side of the business, and talking about how food safety is important for business. And then actually, I have somebody else from the UK on Wednesday. Chef Ben Paris will be coming to talk about how he manages multiple dietary needs when he's making event food. And then again, I said the CEO of Fairs on Thursday. So stay tuned for all of that. And thank you, Georgina, you and Erin, for being here. I appreciate it. And until then,
thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Everybody stay safe and eat well.
Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, Nourish inclusion and bolster your bottom line. Then visit eatingatameeting.com.